Daniel Vaughn says Democratic calls for gun control ring hollow. It absolutely does. I mean, he's so eloquently uh uh talks about this, how the Democrats have the audacity to try to take away people guns when they were the ones burning things down in 2020, and they're the ones who are pro crime and anti police. We have to have a way to defend ourselves because of this. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to go over what Daniel Vaughn has to say about this. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Conservative Institute. Again, this is from Daniel Vaughn, and he reports that after any awful event, I see, like many of you, the same performative rage from my liberal friends. They claim everything that happened was totally preventable if we only put in place gun control of some kind. It doesn't matter whether the facts of the case or the actual policy prescriptions would accomplish anything. The only thing that matters is one line: more gun control. Here's the problem. The gun control debate ended in 2020 when radical leftists burned cities to the ground, crime exploded, Democratic prosecutors chose not to prosecute crime, and Americans watched in horror as everyone reacted to the pandemic. That settled the question of gun ownership. Sprinkle into that the increasing gun ownership among minority groups like Jews, because they no longer feel safe in major cities for good reason, and you get the current political climate. All that stats, arguments, and more don't matter in this because they've been covered a million times in previous events. Everyone in America witnessed just how a few weeks ago, Derek Perry stopped a man running around a Walmart stabbing people. We all saw that. Just this year, when Los Angeles rioters took over, the city and state did nothing. People watched as their government stepped aside and allowed it to happen. Donald Trump had to send the troops in to Washington, D.C. to restore order because for 4 years, Biden's handpicked U.S. attorney declined to prosecute 67% of those arrested. 67%. How can you only prosecute 67% of the people arrested and still keep your job? Democrats live in this fantasy world where they can throw the borders wide open, refuse to prosecute crimes, and then demand Americans give up gun rights. It's not just in Washington, D.C., however. The decision not to prosecute and set criminals free was a conscious one made by Democratic donors. Donors like George Soros specifically targeted local prosecutors races and put people in place who would refuse to prosecute crimes. And I've done tons of reports on that. The result was immediate. Crime spiked, especially violent crime. Prosecutors refusing to do their job put police in a bind. That's why several Republican-run states have been able to staff up their police forces by poaching good officers from blue cities. Police are leaving places where they make no difference. And again, this brings us back to gun control. You can have extensive gun control, but you can't have crime-ridden cities where prosecutors side with criminals. If you're actively choosing that second one, Americans will choose to protect themselves. It's the only natural choice, especially if you're a man and you want to defend your family. But here's another story of a church that was attacked this year. A deacon named Richard Pryor saw a gunman coming for his church. He acted. Pryor, a deacon at the church about 25 miles west of Detroit, was on his cell phone with a 911 dispatcher who relaying the quickly unfolding events to law enforcement. But the government continued to move toward the church doors. He said, quote, "I'm just realizing there's no time," Pryor said Thursday. "I didn't have a weapon on me in the truck or anything. So what are your options?" What Pryor did do was use his 2018 Ford F-150 pickup to ram the gunman, who was then fatally shot by church security staff. Police couldn't respond in time. It took people on the scene who were capable and willing to answer. That's why I always say, police only show up after things already happen. That's why self-defense is so important. Because those minutes, the 8 to 10 minutes that it takes for police to show up and help, those minutes matter. But you're not going anywhere with idiotic screeching about gun control when stories like this are happening in America, which liberals ignore and demand everyone else disarm. What happened in Minnesota was awful. There's no doubt or question about that. On the backside, we get another round of liberal Democrats blasting everyone else for not instituting whatever version of gun control they're pushing today. Take that message into the crime-ridden cities that Democrats run. The claim this can't happen anymore goes silent while people are murdered every day in these cities. Notice how they never talk about that. Only mass shootings get the ire of Democrats, but if you're subject to any of the crime due to their insistence of siding with criminals, you're out of luck. It's a dishonest line of attack, and Americans see through it. The debate died 5 years ago during the pandemic. Democrats turned on Americans that year and proceeded to wreck things during the Biden administration. We're currently dealing with that cleanup effort. If you want to find a way through this, maybe first identify why another trans-identifying kid is shooting up another church or school. Because when I talked with independents and conservatives, that was the point that shocked them. It was, again, on this point. Democrats want to talk about old policies in situations that no longer match the facts. They're out of touch with reality. It is the left that has made America unsafe. There's a reason Donald Trump's simple message of being tough on crime resonates. I mean, look at all the women, the black women that come out and supporting Trump when it comes to this crime and stuff like that. It's because people want to be safe. It's simple. It works because the opposing party is enabling crime and demanding that everyone accept disarmament and gun control. America has rejected that offer. Wow. Shout out to Daniel Vaughn for that wonderful article. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.